WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American over here in Germany, tasting often rare and exotic whiskeys. Not really sure how rare and exotic this really is. This is Pinhook. This is the 2021 crop, and I have the Hard Rye Guy High Proof Bourbon 122 proof, so 61% ABV. So the Pinhook label. All right. So first of all, blue wax. Okay. They did have that nice little ribbon underneath here, so it actually came off very, very great. Your personal opinion: wax, yep, or wax, no. I'm more of a I don't need wax type of people. I'm not a big fan of the Booker's wax. I'm not a fan of the Maker's wax. I'm not a fan of all that Willet wax, and I'm not sure if I'm really a fan of the Pinhook wax here either. But hey, that's just me. All right. So the Pinhook bourbon brand, or the label, was actually started, I did not know that, in Kentucky in 2010. That's a long time ago in the bourbon world, yeah? And they want to have the concept of vintage bourbons and celebrate the tradition of Kentucky horse racing. Every single bottle has that there. So, did you know that the word Pinhook actually comes here from this tradition of buying yearling horses, training them so that they can actually become race horses and win and earn money? I did not know that. So what they're doing here, basically exact same thing. They're buying whiskey and then turning it into something we can actually use and have there. So they started off with sourcing from from MGP. Almost everyone did that back then. But 2020, something happened. A major shift in the universe of whiskey happened. They started taking whiskey produced from the Castle and Key Distillery. Even on my bottle, it says here, distilled at Castle and Key, Frankfort, Kentucky. I want to go to that distillery. This, by the way, is a 3-year-old bottle, which I think is great. So, do you know anything about Castle and Key? Well, maybe you know this, maybe you know that. But the interesting thing about this distillery is it's actually the old distillery from Mr. Colonel E.H. Taylor Jr. In 1887, he built his own little destination here in Millville, Kentucky. I was very close to distillery, but I wasn't there. I really have to go when I'm in Kentucky in June and July. I really have to go by there. There's an actual castle. There's a spring house. There's a sunken garden. That was basically the birthplace of bourbon tourism back then in 1887. Prohibition closed the distillery in 1920, and over the next century or so, the property changed owners and occupants, but eventually just fell into ruin. So the pictures that are there are just, it looks like an amusement park for bourbon. Yeah, and so 2012, a guy named Will Arvin, he came across some photos of the abandoned distillery, and it kind of just, it didn't let him go. It just fascinated him, so he decided to go visit the property himself. And there he found caved-in roofs, boarded up windows, vegetation so overgrown he had to use a flashlight in the middle of the day to navigate, but he fell in love with that property. And it was his resolve then to say, I'm going to restore this historic bourbon icon. Okay, I hope Will has very deep pockets. Well, apparently he did. He teamed up with a guy named Wes Murray, and they started restoring, not just renovating, restoring this place. And it's so beautiful. I needed them gardens and all that. And so they created now their distillery, Castle and Key, and it used to be the old Taylor Distillery. So, all right, very, 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 very nice here. So they do have one of their own products. I think I bought a bottle of it. I have to go check in my records here. I'm waiting for 2 shipments to arrive from the US over here in Germany. So my first shipment was a total of 8 bottles. The second shipment was 6, and the other shipment was also 6. And Castle and Key have their so-called restoration rye. So I'm going to compare the 2 of these to see which one is actually the better deal. $50 for this. Actually, I don't think that's a bad deal. It is only 3 years old, but it is a new distillery. It's an independent brand, and they're doing some interesting stuff here. All right, so We got this guy over here. So I forgot his name here. Sean Josephs. He is one of the founders of Pinhook. There were quite a few here, and he is the master blender. So he takes these different barrels and make these batches, and that's very good. I don't have any idea how big a batch is, and I don't have any idea what type of barrels we're using. Yes, it's new charred oak. It says Kentucky Straight Bourbon Rye. Sorry, Kentucky Straight Rye Whiskey on here. New charred oak, but is it a charred? 1, 2, 3, 4. Is it toasted beforehand? Blah, blah, blah. And the only thing I know is it's aged for at least 3 years. What am I going to compare it to? I'm going to compare it to Smooth Ambler. Why? Because it's a rye whiskey from a new distillery, 61.8%. This is 61%, and it runs about $55. Now, I just recently reviewed this as well, and I noticed that there was hardly any, I'm going to say coverage, tum-tum is what I wanted to say, any coverage about Smooth Ambler for a little while. Was just today listening to the Bourbon Pursuit podcast, and then I received an email here from the guys. And then there was a little bit of information in there, and they were talking about the glass shortage, and they're talking about all these problems they're having there. And the very bottom was like, oh, we have a new sponsor. We're going to actually have a couple new brands on here because we are now teaming up with Pernod Ricard. And so we're going to have TX Bourbon. We're going to have Smooth Ambler. We're going to have, I was like, Smooth Ambler? I Googled Ricard. I was, oh, yeah. Pernod Ricard bought a majority stake in Smooth Ambler. I totally forgot. And so Pinot Ricard is now responsible for distribution and advertising. And so maybe that's the reason why this bottle has not been hyped as much as many other bottles have. One of my conspiracy theories. But the other side of the story is the possibility of us actually getting Smooth Ambler now in Europe is very high, because Pernod Ricard has an excellent distribution network over here in Europe. And so that would not be the first product that they have or will bring over here in the future. So yay. All right, so let's take a look at these two. Color a little bit over there for the Smooth Ambler. The 5-year-old is a tick darker than the 3-year-old here from Castle and Key from Pinhook. Now, Pinhook, they do have some different things. So they always have, they call it the crop, or they call it the vintage. So there's the vintage, then 2020 and 19. Actually, 19 only had one vintage. I did not know that. 2018, 17 only had one vintage. And then we have 2016 to 14. All right, good. So if I go up to the vintage 2021, we have our normal flagship bourbon, 49%. We have our normal flagship rye. I think that's also 49%. Let's see here. Yep. All right, so 49% ABV. But then we have our high proof bourbon, and we also have our high proof rye. And these are very interesting bottles. So I would always say go for the high proof stuff if at all possible. So 3 years old, 5 years old, $50, $55, roundabout, on the nose. Now, if you gave this to me, I would say it's a high rye bourbon. I would not say that it's actually rye. Mash bill, 20% corn, 60% rye, 20% malted barley. Mash bill, 88% rye, and 12% malted barley. No corn. I think I know a difference. So that 20% corn gives a little bit of sweetness in here. I love the Smooth Ambler. This is happy day for Jason. Both of these are excellent products. This is a B product. This is going to be a B minus. No reason to hang around anymore to see why Jason likes this so much. Both of these blow me away at how nicely they taste at 61%. 61, 61.8. These are magnificent rye bottlings, in my opinion. Why do I give them an A? An A is for world-class whiskey. This is great whiskey, but it's not I'm in heaven whiskey. All right? This might be heaven on earth, but not real heaven yet. Very good stuff. The nose wins for the Smooth Ambler. Cheers. There's a little bit of alcohol push in there. Now, I had to read the official tasting notes online. Look, there's actually a nice little QR code here. You can go there. You can download the app. You can take a picture of the picture here in the front. Didn't work on my phone, and you would actually go immediately to this. I had to go to the archives or whatever, and then I could go to my bottle, and you get some tasting notes. And the tasting note that it was like, there's something in here. There's something in here. There's two things that I couldn't really put my finger on. And the first thing for me was a little bit of sour apple. And the second thing that I couldn't put my finger on, but as soon as I read it, it's like, yes, it's black licorice. All right, it says here, this is warm and nutty notes of chocolate, maybe black pepper, maybe cedarwood, maybe black cherry, maybe sorghum. I don't think I've ever tried sorghum all by itself. Finishing with spiced notes of cinnamon, definitely got the cinnamon, and black licorice. That's what those Twizzlers type of black licorice moments here. That's what I'm getting in here. Some people like it, some people don't. I'm not a big fan of licorice. Just me. And yet, this is a very, very good product. It has a burst of flavor. It tapers off. The finish is not the longest in the world, but I still have a little bit what's still going on there. There's a sweetie, alcoholic type of rye moment in there with a touch of ground pepper in there. Very, very, very nice. For $50, I would buy this. This would be a standard bottle on my shelves if I had that. Over here, I'm paying over 80 euros to get it over Germany. So, I added water to this in my German video. And what happened was, and I was really amazed, is first of all, it didn't really dilute it as it didn't get watery. It got creamy. Don't forget the viscosity point of 107 is about basically, is that correct? Is it 107? Is it 45? It's 90 proof, isn't it? It's the highest viscosity of whiskey. So it had more of a viscosity. It got creamier, but also the finish lasted a little bit longer. It was actually it still had that burst of flavor. It was just a tick little phased later. It was just like 2 or 3 seconds later. Very nice whiskey. You can dilute it down. You can take it down to the proof point you like, and I really like this. As I said, this is for me a B minus whiskey. If I were in America, it would be a C for the value for money. What is my grading score? A is why haven't you bought it? B, buy it. C, you can buy it if you want to. D, you don't need it. And F, why was the stuff even made? So this is something you can buy if you want, definitely. And this is something I'd recommend if you like good bourbon taste. Bourbon rye. High rye. It's a high rye bourbon for me. That's 60% bourbon, 20% corn, 20% malted barley here. This straight rye whiskey, a beautiful, beautiful product from a brand new distillery, and I can't wait to try the restoration from Castle and Key. Very, very nicely done. This, on the other hand, is complexer. This is more of a, I can't say outlier, but it's an exceptional whiskey. I really, really like this. I like the nose. Mm. Mm. I like the palate. 88% rye, 12% malted barley. It's got that toast. It's got a little bit of that black tea moment going on here. Nice. And it's less sweet. This is a fantastic rye. If you're sick and tired of 95.5 MGP bourbon in every single independent bottle you've picked up for the last 5 years, at least it feels like that way, and you want something different, you want a 5-year-old rye that's fantastic, smooth ambler, cast strength series, excellent, excellent, excellent whiskey. $55, $50. Which one would I choose? I gave this a B. I'm giving this a B minus. I'm giving this a C. I might even give this a C plus for the value for money. Beautiful, beautiful whiskeys here. I'm in heaven. This is just so nice to have two brand new distilleries out here, Castle and Key and Smooth Ambler, putting out great rye whiskeys that tickle my palate and I just can recommend with all my heart. All right, so wax, yes or no? And what 60%, what cask strength rye can you recommend? And I'm going to say maybe do not mention lot 40 cask strength. What other cask strength ryes can you recommend? Tell me, please. Is it going to be a Rossville? Is it going to be something else? What do you have out there? Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for subscribing. Thank you very much for sharing. I like both of these products. This is a bit better, but this is still fabulous. See you soon. Whiskey Jason here. Ciao.